أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما ربنا زدنا علما وارزقنا من الصالحين يا معلمني على الإبراهيم علمني. Thank you everyone. A very good afternoon. So today the purpose why we are here again is that we have unfolded another chapter of the Indian war crime attitude, particularly against the journalists, the reputed renowned journalists working in IOJK, and also few journalists. This report is a testimony-based report. We're launching this report, and it covers few cases of journalists who are being detained illegally under the anti-terror laws, the occupying authority, and also the renowned journalist, human rights defender, Mr. Khurram Parvez. Mr. Khurram Parvez is a reputed human rights defender. He was working with only one limb. He has one amputated limb. And then presently he is behind the bars under anti-terror law. So this report is basically a collaboration briefing on how India is silencing the human rights and journalism in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Also, the testimonies recorded by Muhammad Hassan Untu. Muhammad Hassan Untu before submitted his testimony before the UK war crime unit that he was being tortured, and now after that testimony Mr. Hassan Untu was again detained, and now there is a fresh testimony. He has named IPS officer. This report has the name of IPS officer who has tortured, and then the other counter-insurgent corps, which include Tahir, who has been torturing, harassing the international journalists in occupied Kashmir. There's also a testimony given by the journalists how they are being stopped to do their professional duty, how laws are being weaponized against these journalists, as already the occupied territory is very violent journalism. We have lost so many professionals. At least 190 journalists have been killed by the occupying authority in these last 30 years. And again, there are few cases of enforced disappearances, the tortures against the journalists, human rights defenders. So today, we have very distinguished panelists with us. And one among them is Senator Mushahid Hussain Saab. He's a convener Parliamentary Forum on Palestine, Kashmir and Rohingya. Besides, he's also a chairman, Senate Defense Committee. I request Senator Mushahid Saab to discuss the report, and please share your expertise on this.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. मिशाल हुसैन साहबा, हमारे दोस्त कश्मीर के फ्रीडम फाइटर्स मौजूद हैं, and it's great pleasure to be here. This is an amazing report which has come from the Stoke and White investigation team along with Hisab, and I would like to compliment them because this report is based on research, empirical research facts on the ground. Please see the report, Silencing Journalism and Human Rights in Kashmir. And we are talking of Indian occupied Kashmir, which has been annexed by India on 5th of August 2019 and also partitioned illegally and without recourse to law. Now, what is this special about this report? And I'd like to just mention some of the highlights. It is based on 2,000 testimonies. They met 2,000 different people. They got their written and oral testimonies in the record. And they have documented 450 cases of torture in Indian occupied Kashmir, 1,500 cases of pellet gun victims. And most of the pellet gun victims are children. And pellet gun means the pellet gun is used to hunt animals. And that is used against the innocent children, the girls, the boys, men and women of Indian occupied Kashmir. There are 100 cases of enforced disappearances and 30 cases of sexual violence. And on top of that, when we are talking about this report, as we speak, last week, 2.7 million people who were non-Kashmiris belonging to different parts of India who are currently in occupied Kashmir, whether they are military personnel, bureaucracy and others, including 100,000 parachuriks of the RSS. Parachuriks are like the brown shirts of the Nazi party. They are fascists and they are the ideological, they were there. They have been given the right to vote in Indian occupied Kashmir. And 4 million new domiciles have already been issued. The people can stay there. So the voters list has been changed. Domiciles have been issued to outsiders. So basically what we are seeing is a very dangerous and insidious design to transform and change the demographic balance of Indian occupied Kashmir and make the Muslims, who are the majority, into a minority. Similar to what Israel is doing in occupied Palestine and Gaza and West Bank. Occupied Kashmir also has seen since 5th August 2019 the longest lockdown in history, internet lockdown, not COVID lockdown, 213 days. And among the targets of what the Human Rights report has mentioned, and also I'd like to mention economically, according to the Washington Post, $5.3 billion of the Kashmiri economy has been wasted or squandered. 500,000 Kashmiris have lost their jobs because of what India has done after 5th of August 2019. And one of the main targets of Indian occupation is the heroic human rights defender Khurram Parvez. Khurram Parvez, as you know, is an icon. He has been the head of this Jammu and Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society and also the chair of the Asian Federation Against Involuntary Disappearances. And his only crime has been to speak the truth. And on that basis, he has been charged with terrorism when he's a peaceful activist for rights of his people. And he has been charged by this organization called the NIA, National Investigation Agency, which is the lead organization. This is like the Indian Gestapo. In Nazi Germany, there was a Gestapo which used to do this kind of work. This is the Indian version of the Gestapo in the 21st century, which is doing capturing people, torturing people, jailing people, killing people. And this is supposed to be doing counter-terrorism, but what they're doing is one-point agenda to suppress, to brutalize, and to eliminate any voices of resistance, people who speak the truth. So in this context, I think it's very important to understand that what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir is something unique, because normally in other areas we see there is a targets are either men or any women or children or separately. But this is the only warfare I can see. There are two things unique. Children, women and men are being affected. Rape is being used as a weapon of war. Children are being targeted pellet guns, and people are being kidnapped, and men also are punished. And the highest soldier to civilian ratio in modern warfare, 900,000 Indian occupied people, Indian occupation forces, whether army, paramilitary, police, NIA. So what is happening in Kashmir is a crime against humanity. We all must speak up on that. I in the Pakistan Parliament initiated 2 resolutions, including a very important one about political prisoners, including Mishal's husband Yasin Malik Sahab and Asiya Andrabi Sahiba and Qasim Faktu Sahab, and also on Khurram Parvez Sahab. And I would like to conclude with a quotation by an Indian writer about what is happening in India today. Arundhati Roy wrote in the New York Times, an architecture of fascism is being erected in India. And today's India, RSS is the state. It was published on 15th of August in the New York Times. The way forward, we must speak up. Maybe we should try to form an international tribunal on Indian war crimes, on Indian crimes against humanity, led by Dr. Mahathir or some such person. There used to be a tribunal on Vietnam by Bertrand Russell on the same platform. And more importantly, if Gambia, a small country of the OIC, can go to court, to the international court against Myanmar on Rohingya, why can't some activists go to the International Court of Justice on the issue of Kashmir and take RSS to court? Because RSS is a fascist organization and they're doing ethnic cleansing. They are targeting the Kashmiri Muslims. And I would also like to conclude with a quote by an American, Dr. Gregory Stanton, on 12th of January, 2022. Gregory Stanton is the president of the Genocide Watch in America. And he said, and I quote, "In India today, we see the makings of a genocide in Kashmir and Assam." So these are Western sources, and the time has come to speak up, to wake up, and to take the bull by the horns and expose these crimes being committed, Indian state terrorism, by the regime in Delhi, and by especially the RSS. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I commend again the report that has been issued. Please see this report. Please. They claim. This is a very powerful. Yes. Okay. And I would request all of us to stand with this report. This is the report, Silencing Journalists and Human Rights in Kashmir. Sab aap badi zabardast photo le lein. Thank you. And this is a very serious issue. So we commend. The facts have been documented in London, and they've exposed the ugly face of India. And as the Economist said, intolerant India. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I request Mishal Malik Sahaba to occupy the chair, because I'm sorry I have to go to another appointment. I beg leave, sir. My apologies for that. Thank you. Mishal, aap idhar aa jaओ.
So we have one more important guest and stakeholder among us is Mr. Mahmood Ahmad Sagar Saab. He is a convener of All Parties Hurriyat Conference. I'd request Sagar Saab to share some light on this, because he has a vast experience on ground. He is living in exile. All other leaders. I'd request Sagar Saab, please.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। आज की इस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस के हवाले से मैं भी शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ। इस रिपोर्ट के हवाले से اس میں جو باتیں لائی گئی ہیں مشاہد حسین صاحب نے ان پہ بڑی اہم گفتگو کی اور تمام مقاصد پہ بات کی ہے، لیکن میں چونکہ بیسیکلی جموں کشمیر کا مسئلہ ایک پولیٹیکل مسئلہ ہے، ہیومن رائٹس کا مسئلہ بھی اس کا ایک اہم جز ہے، لیکن بنیادی طور پہ کشمیر کا مسئلہ ایک پولیٹیکل ایشو ہے۔ ہمارے ساتھ جو آج تک ہوا ہے، جس میں اس میں بھی اور اس سے پہلے بھی رپورٹس آئے ہیں، اور سب سے بڑا رپورٹ جو ایمنسٹی انٹرنیشنل نے جاری کیا 2017 اور 2019 میں، وہ اقوام متحدہ کی قراردادوں کے پاس ایک بہت بڑا ڈاکومنٹ کشمیر کی تحریک کے حوالے سے ہے، جس میں تمام چیزوں کا احاطہ کیا گیا ہے کہ ہندوستان کشمیر میں کر کیا رہا ہے۔ آج جن لوگوں کی بات یہاں پہ کی گئی ہے، یہ سول سوسائٹی کے لوگ ہیں، یہ ہیومن رائٹس ایکٹیوسٹ ہیں، یہ اخبار نویس ہے، یہ کوئی فوٹوگرافر ہے جو اپنی ڈیوٹی پوری کر رہا ہے، اور اس کو اپنی ڈیوٹی کے عوض یہ سزا دی جا رہی ہے کہ وہ آج جیلوں میں ہیں، شہید کیے گئے ہیں۔ لیکن جو کشمیر کی لیڈرشپ اس وقت، جس کا بنیادی مقصد جموں کشمیر کے عوام کے ساتھ 1947-48 میں کیا گیا، دنیا نے اس کی گارنٹی دی، اقوام متحدہ کی قراردادوں کے مطابق کشمیریوں کا مسئلہ حل کیا جائے گا۔ ہندوستان کے پہلے وزیر اعظم پنڈت جواہر لال نہرو سری نگر لال چوک میں آ کے کشمیریوں سے یہ وعدہ کر کے گئے کہ ان کو حق خود ارادہ دیا جائے گا۔ بنیادی طور پہ اس بات کی طرف توجہ ہم سب کو دینی ہوگی۔ ہیومن رائٹس کے حوالے سے جو باتیں ہیں وہ اپنی جگہ پہ ضرور اہم ہیں، لیکن یاسین ملک صاحب کی بات ہمیں زیادہ زور دے کے کرنی چاہیے، شبیر احمد شاہ کی بات کرنی چاہیے، مسرت عالم بٹ کی بات کرنی چاہیے، آسیہ اندرابی صاحبہ کی بات، اسی طرح ہزاروں لوگ جو اس وقت ہندوستان کے جیلوں میں قید ہیں۔ ہمیں یہ بات ضرور یاد رکھنی چاہیے، ہمیں ہر محاذ پہ کام کرنا ہے، لیکن بنیادی جو مسئلہ ہمارا ہے وہ ہمارا مسئلہ مستقبل کا ہے، جس کی وجہ سے آج تک صرف پچھلے 30 سال میں 1 لاکھ سے زائد لوگوں کو شہید کیا گیا، یہ رپورٹ ہے۔ 47 میں 4 لاکھ سے زیادہ لوگوں کو شہید کیا گیا۔ اگر آپ نے اس ریجن میں امن قائم کرنا ہے، محبتیں بانٹنی ہے، تو مسئلہ کشمیر کو آپ کو حل کرنا پڑے گا، پھر ہی یہاں پہ ایک تحفظ اور یہ ایک خوشحال زندگی بسر اس ریجن میں ہو سکتی ہے۔ میری درخواست ارباب اختیار پاکستان کے ذمہ داران سے ہے، ہم اپنی اپنی ڈیوٹیاں پوری کرنے کی کوشش کر رہے ہیں، لیکن اختیارات ہمارے ہاتھ میں نہیں ہیں کہ کام کرنا چاہیے، اپنے تمام تر اختلافات کو بلا کے اس پہ